The mining ship Prosperity drifted through the asteroid belt like a metal whale hunting for prey. Captain Sarah Chun had been running deep space operations for 12 years, but she'd never seen anything like the wreckage floating ahead of them. "That's not human tech," muttered Jake Morrison, the ship's engineer, as he squinted at the twisted metal debris on the scanner. The remnants of what had once been a sleek vessel now tumbled slowly through space, its hull split open like a broken egg. Sarah adjusted the controls, bringing their ship closer to the wreckage. The Prosperity was a tough old bird, built for hauling ore and surviving the harsh conditions of deep space. Her crew of 8 had been out here for 6 months, following mineral deposits and avoiding the political chaos brewing back on Earth. "Life signs," announced Dr. Elena Vasquez from the medical bay, her voice crackling over the comm, faint, but definitely there. "Someone's alive in that mess." The crew exchanged glances. They were miners, not rescue workers. But out here in the black, everyone followed the unwritten rule. You help when you can because someday you might need help yourself. "Prep the airlock," Sarah ordered. "Jake, you're with me. Elena, get ready for whatever we bring back." The EVA's suit felt bulky as Sarah maneuvered through the debris field. Beside her, Jake's breathing came steady over the comm as they approached the largest piece of wreckage. The metal was unlike anything in human databases, smooth and organic-looking, with patterns that seemed to shift when you weren't looking directly at them. They found the survivor in what had probably been the ship's command center. The being was roughly humanoid but taller, with elongated limbs and skin that shimmered like oil on water. It was unconscious, trapped under a fallen beam that had somehow not killed it outright. "Jesus," Jake whispered. "It's actually an alien." Sarah felt her heart racing as they carefully extracted the creature. First contact protocols existed, but they were theoretical guidelines written by people who'd never expected to actually use them. She was a mining captain, not a diplomat. Back on the Prosperity, Dr. Vasquez worked frantically to stabilize their unexpected patient. The alien's physiology was different enough to make treatment challenging, but similar enough that human medical equipment could help. "Its internal structure is fascinating," Elena reported as she monitored the creature's vital signs. "The bone density is incredible, and there are redundant organ systems I've never seen before. Whatever the species evolved from, they're built to survive." The alien remained unconscious for 3 days. During that time, Sarah found herself staring at the stars and wondering what they'd gotten themselves into. The political situation on Earth was tense enough without adding alien contact to the mix. The Corporate Coalition and the Free Worlds Alliance were already at each other's throats over mining rights and territorial disputes. When the alien finally woke up, it was Jake who was on watch. The engineer nearly jumped out of his skin when those large, dark eyes suddenly opened and focused on him with unmistakable intelligence. "Easy there," Jake said, trying to keep his voice calm. "You're safe. We found you in the wreckage." The alien tried to speak, producing sounds that were melodic but incomprehensible. Then, something remarkable happened. The creature's eyes began to glow softly, and suddenly, Jake could understand the words forming in his mind. "Gratitude. Deep gratitude. You saved this one when you had no obligation to do so." Jake stumbled backward, calling for the captain. Within minutes, the entire crew had gathered in the medical bay, staring at their guest with a mixture of fear and wonder. The alien introduced itself with a name that sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. The humans settled on calling him Cord for simplicity. Through the telepathic connection, Cord explained that his people, the Vectar, had been exploring this region of space when they were attacked by ships they'd never seen before. The Devourers came without warning. Cord communicated, his thoughts heavy with grief. "They consumed everything in their path. My ship tried to escape, but their weapons tore us apart." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. These Devourers, how many ships did they have? Cord's mental voice grew darker. Hundreds, perhaps thousands. They moved like a plague across the stars, taking everything and leaving nothing but empty space behind. Dr. Vasquez leaned forward, her scientific curiosity overriding her caution. "What do they want? Resources? Territory? Everything," Cord replied. "They strip planets bare, harvest populations, and move on." My people have been fighting them for decades, falling back system by system. We thought we had found refuge in this remote area, but they found us even here. Asterisk the crew exchanged worried glances. If these devourers were as dangerous as Cord claimed, humanity might be facing a threat unlike anything they'd ever imagined. Why are you telling us this? Sarah asked. Cord's thoughts carried a note of respect. Asterisk because you showed kindness to a stranger. In all our encounters with the Devourers, we have learned that such compassion is rare in the galaxy. Your species may be young, but you have something my people lost long ago, the willingness to risk yourselves for others. Asterisk Jake scratched his beard thoughtfully. So what happens now? Do we take you back to your people? My people are scattered, hiding in the deep void. But there is something else. Asterisk Cord's mental voice grew urgent. Asterisk the Devourers are coming to this sector. I detected their scout ships before my vessel was destroyed. They will arrive soon, and when they do, they will find your colonies, your homeworld. Asterisk Sarah felt her blood turn to ice. Earth's defenses were designed for human conflicts, not an alien invasion. The Corporate Coalition and Free World Alliance have been so busy fighting each other that they'd never considered the possibility of an external threat. How long do we have? She asked. Cord closed his eyes, accessing memories that made him shudder. Asterisk weeks, perhaps less. The Devourers move quickly once they commit to a target. Your people must be warned, must prepare. Asterisk the weight of responsibility settled on Sarah's shoulders like a physical burden. She was just a mining captain, but she might be humanity's only chance to prepare for what was coming. As if reading her thoughts, Cord reached out with one elongated hand and gently touched her arm. Even through the fabric of her sleeve, she could feel the warmth of his gratitude and determination. This one owes you a life debt. Asterisk he communicated. Asterisk where you go, I will follow. Your kindness has earned you an ally, Captain Sarah Chun. Together, perhaps we can prepare your people for the storm that approaches. Asterisk Sarah looked around at her crew, these tough, practical miners who had signed up for hauling asteroids, not saving the galaxy. But she saw determination in their eyes, the same stubborn human refusal to give up that had carried their species from caves to the stars. All right, then, she said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. I guess we're going to war. The journey back to human space took 6 days at maximum burn. Sarah had sent emergency transmissions ahead, but she knew the political situation made everything complicated. The Corporate Coalition controlled the core systems, while the Free World Alliance held the outer colonies. Neither side trusted the other enough for easy cooperation. Cord spent those 6 days learning about humanity through the ship's computer systems. His telepathic abilities let him absorb information at an incredible rate, and what he discovered both amazed and worried him. Your species is remarkable, he told Dr. Vasquez during one of their conversations. In less than a century, you went from your first space flight to colonizing dozens of worlds. Most species take millennia to achieve such expansion. Elena smiled proudly. Humans don't like sitting still. We see a challenge. We face it. But you also fight among yourselves constantly. Asterisk Cord observed, his mental voice tinged with concern. Asterisk your historical records show almost continuous warfare. How do you maintain progress while destroying each other? Asterisk Elena's smile faded. We're working on that part. The first sign of trouble came when they reached the outer markers of the Tau Ceti system. Instead of a usual automated welcome beacon, they were intercepted by a squadron of Alliance warships. The lead vessel, the ANS Defiance, demanded immediate surrender. This is Captain Marcus Reed of the Alliance Navy, came the stern voice over the comm. You're carrying classified information that belongs to the free worlds. Prepare to be boarded. Sarah gritted her teeth. The Corporate Coalition must have intercepted their transmissions and share the information with their intelligence networks. Now, both sides wanted to control the alien contact situation. This is Captain Chun of the mining vessel Prosperity, she responded. I'm carrying a refugee who needs medical attention and information vital to human survival. We're requesting safe passage to the nearest diplomatic facility. Negative. You'll surrender the alien to Alliance custody immediately. Before Sarah could respond, Cord appeared on the bridge. The alien moved with fluid grace despite his injuries, and his presence seemed to fill the small space with otherworldly dignity. Allow me. Asterisk he communicated to Sarah, then activated the ship's external transmitters. When he spoke aloud, his voice carried harmonic undertones that made the words seem to resonate in the listener's bones. "People of the Alliance ships," Cord said, his English now perfect thanks to his rapid learning. "I am Cord of the Vectar, and I carry urgent warnings for all humanity. The threat approaching your species does not care about your political divisions. The Devourers will consume corporate coalition and Free World's alliance equally." There was a long pause on the comm then. Captain Reed's voice returned, noticeably less hostile. "What threat?" Sarah took over, explaining everything they knew about the Devourers. As she spoke, she noticed the Alliance ship's formation shifting from aggressive to defensive. Even hardened military officers could recognize the ring of truth in Cord's words. "We need to get this information to both governments immediately," Sarah concluded. "Every day we waste arguing about jurisdiction is a day the Devourers get closer." Captain Reed was quiet for a moment. "Then, the Alliance Council is meeting at Proxima Station in 2 days. We'll escort you there, but I'm also transmitting this conversation to Coalition Command. They deserve to know what's coming." The trip to Proxima Station gave Sarah her first real look at the Free World's Alliance military. Their ships were smaller than corporate coalition vessels, but faster and more maneuverable. The crews were mostly colonists who had joined up to protect their homes from corporate expansion. Cord spent the time working with Jake and Elena to analyze the wreckage they'd salvaged from his ship. The Vectar technology was far ahead of human capabilities, but it wasn't incomprehensible. More importantly, it showed clear evidence of Devourer weapons. "Look at these burn patterns," Jake said, pointing to twisted metal. "Whatever hit this ship didn't just pierce the hull, it consumed it. The metal's been changed at a molecular level." Elena ran her scanner over the sample. "It's like the atoms were rearranged into something else entirely. No wonder their ships are so effective." Cord's mental voice was grim. "Asterisk, the Devourers don't just destroy. They transform everything they touch into resources for their fleet. They turn planets into more ships, populations into fuel for their war machine." Astor's Proxima Station was a massive rotating habitat at the edge of Alliance space. As the Prosperity docked, Sarah could see representatives from dozens of worlds gathering for the emergency session. She'd never seen so many different human subspecies in one place. The pale, elongated forms of low-gravity worlders, the stocky build of heavy world colonists, and everything in between. The council chamber buzzed with nervous energy as Sarah and Cord took their places at the central podium. Admiral Catherine Santos, the Alliance's supreme commander, called for order. "We're here because of claims about an alien invasion," Santos said, her weathered face skeptical. "Before we start reorganizing our entire defense strategy, I want proof." Cord stepped forward, his alien presence causing a stir throughout the chamber. When he spoke, his harmonic voice carried clearly to every corner of the room. "Admiral Santos, people of the Alliance, I offer you not just words, but memory itself." The alien's eyes began to glow, and suddenly, every person in the chamber found themselves sharing Cord's recollections. They saw the Devourer fleet, massive biomechanical ships that moved like living things through space. They witnessed the destruction of Vectar worlds, felt the terror of populations consumed by alien technology. When the vision ended, the chamber was silent. Many representatives were pale and shaking. "How long do we have?" Admiral Santos asked quietly. "Our best estimate is 3 weeks," Sarah replied. "Maybe less." A representative from New Geneva stood up. "Even if we believe this, what can we do? The Alliance and Coalition have been preparing for war with each other, not some alien threat." Admiral Santos nodded grimly. "Our combined fleets might be able to mount a defense, but we need complete cooperation. The Coalition would have to agree to a temporary alliance." "They won't," said another representative. "Corporate Command sees this as an alliance trick to gain tactical advantage." Sarah felt frustration building in her chest. After everything they'd been through, were human politics going to doom the species? Then, Cord spoke again. "There's another way. My people left behind caches of technology in hidden locations throughout this region. Weapons and defenses designed specifically to fight the Devourers. I can guide you to them." Admiral Santos leaned forward. "What kind of weapons?" The Vectar spent centuries developing counters to Devourer technology. Shields that can resist their consumption beams, weapons that can pierce their adaptive armor, disruption fields that interfere with their hive coordination. Jake's eyes lit up with engineering enthusiasm. How advanced are we talking? Advanced enough to give your species a fighting chance, Cord replied. But retrieving these caches will be dangerous. The Devourers may have found some of them, and others are hidden in hostile environments. Sarah stood up, feeling the weight of destiny on her shoulders. The Prosperity isn't a warship, but we know how to handle dangerous salvage operations. We can retrieve these weapons. Captain Chun, Admiral Santos said, "You're talking about a mission into unknown territory, possibly behind enemy lines, based on the word of an alien we've known for less than a week." Sarah looked at Cord, remembering how he'd felt when she'd pulled him from the wreckage, grateful, determined, and absolutely committed to stopping the horror that had destroyed his people. "Admiral, sometimes you have to trust your gut. My gut says this alien is our best hope for survival." The debate continued for hours, but eventually, a consensus emerged. The Alliance would send a small task force with the Prosperity to investigate the nearest weapon cache. Meanwhile, they would continue trying to convince the corporate coalition to take the threat seriously. As the session ended, Admiral Santos approached Sarah privately. "Captain, I hope you know what you're doing. If this is some elaborate deception, humanity might not get another chance." Sarah nodded soberly. "I know, Admiral, but I've seen what's left of his ship, felt his memories. The Devourers are real, and they're coming." That night, as Sarah prepared for the mission ahead, Cord found her in the observation deck. The alien stood quietly beside her, watching the stars through the transparent aluminum. "You take a great risk trusting me," he communicated. "Maybe," Sarah replied, "but you could have died quietly in that wreckage. Instead, you're risking everything to help a species you barely know. That tells me what kind of person you are. The Devourers taught my people many things about survival. But your kind has something we lost in our long retreat, hope. You believe you can win, even against impossible odds." Sarah smiled grimly. "Humans are stubborn that way. We don't know when to quit. That stubbornness may be what saves us all." The task force assembled at the edge of Alliance space was small, but determined. Besides the Prosperity, Admiral Santos had assigned 2 escort frigates, the ANS Courage and the ANS Persistence, along with their most experienced crews. Commander Lisa Park, a veteran of the Outer Rim conflicts, led the military contingent with professional skepticism but growing respect for their alien ally. Cord had spent days studying star charts and gravitational readings, his enhanced memory slowly reconstructing the location of the nearest Vectar cache. The journey would take them through 3 star systems, including one that showed signs of recent Devourer activity. "The cache is hidden within a rogue planet," Cord explained to the assembled commanders as they reviewed the mission plan. "My people called it Haven's Rest. It drifts in the void between systems, powered by geothermal energy and shielded from detection." Commander Park studied the tactical display with a frown. "How do we know the Devourers haven't found it already?" The Vectar were masters of concealment. If Haven's Rest had been discovered, the Devourers would have strip-mined the entire region for similar caches. Cord paused, his alien features showing something that might have been pain. "My people were many things, but careless with their secrets was not one of them." The first 2 systems they passed through were eerily quiet. Dead worlds orbited their stars like tombstones, their surfaces scoured clean of life. Jake spent hours analyzing the devastation through long-range sensors, trying to understand the scope of Devourer technology. "It's not just destructive," he reported to Captain Chun. "It's transformative. They're not blowing up planets. They're harvesting them completely, turning rock and metal into ship components." Dr. Vasquez had her own disturbing observations. "The biological readings are fascinating in the worst possible way. They're not killing life forms, they're converting them, reprogramming DNA to serve their purposes." Sarah felt sick imagining such a fate befalling Earth. She'd seen war before, the brutal conflicts between corporation and alliance forces, but this was something entirely different. The Devourers didn't just want to conquer humanity. They wanted to erase it and remake it in their own image. On the 3rd day of their journey, They encountered their first sign of active Devourer presence. Long-range sensors detected a massive ship moving through the asteroid belt of the Kepler 442 system. It was unlike anything in human experience. Organic curves blended with crystalline structures, the entire vessel pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. "It's beautiful," whispered Elena, watching the alien ship on the main screen. "It's terrifying," corrected Commander Park. "Look at the size of that thing. It's easily 10 times larger than our biggest dreadnought." Cord's mental voice was heavy with old grief. Asterisk, that is a Harvester-class vessel. They use them to process entire worlds. My homeworld fell to 3 such ships. Asterisk, can they detect us? Sarah asked. At this distance, unlikely. But we should maintain communication silence until we're well clear of the system. They watched in horrified fascination as the Devourer ship deployed smaller vessels that swarmed over a nearby asteroid. Within hours, the rocky body was completely consumed, its mass somehow integrated into the larger ship's structure. "They're like a cancer," Jake muttered, "growing by consuming everything around them." The discovery of Haven's Rest required 3 days of careful navigation through gravitational anomalies that would have torn apart most ships. The rogue planet was exactly as Cord had described, a world cast adrift from its parent star eons ago, now wandering the void in eternal darkness. "There," Cord said, pointing to what looked like empty space on their screens. "The entrance is masked by gravitic shields. Your sensors won't detect it directly." Following Cord's guidance, Sarah piloted the Prosperity toward what appeared to be solid rock. At the last moment, the illusion fell away to reveal a vast cavern system honeycombed throughout the planet's crust. The interior of Haven's Rest took their breath away. Kilometers of tunnels and chambers had been carved from living rock, their walls lined with what looked like crystalline circuitry. Soft light pulsed through the crystal networks, powered by the planet's molten core. "My people were artists as well as warriors," Cord explained as they explored the ancient facility. "Even our military installations were designed to inspire beauty as well as serve function." The weapon cache itself was a cathedral-sized chamber filled with technology that made human engineering look primitive by comparison. Sleek devices whose purpose wasn't immediately obvious hung in zero-gravity fields, their surfaces covered with the same organic-looking patterns they'd seen on Cord's ship. Elena ran her scanner over the nearest device, a crystalline sphere about 3 meters long. "The energy readings are incredible. This thing contains more power than our ship's entire reactor." Disruption lances, Cord identified. They can pierce Devourer armor by destabilizing the molecular bonds that hold their ships together. But they require precise targeting and skilled operators. Jake was examining what looked like a collection of metallic fabric. "What about these?" "Adaptive shields. They learn from each attack and modify their resistance accordingly. A single shield generator can protect a vessel the size of your frigates." Commander Park moved from device to device like a kid in a candy store, her tactical mind racing with possibilities. "How many ships could we equip with this technology?" Cord's expression grew thoughtful. "The cache contains enough equipment for perhaps 50 vessels of your current size. But there is a complication." "There always is," Sarah sighed. "What kind of complication?" "Vector technology requires biological integration to function properly. The weapons and shields must be bonded with living operators to reach full effectiveness." Dr. Vasquez looked up from her examinations. "What kind of biological integration?" "Nothing harmful to your species, but permanent. The process creates a symbiotic relationship between the technology and the user's nervous system. Enhanced reflexes, improved spatial awareness, direct control over the equipment. Side effects, Elena said, unknown with human physiology. My people evolved specifically to interface with our technology. Your species might react differently." Sarah could see the dilemma forming. They had access to weapons that could fight the Devourers, but using them required volunteers willing to undergo unknown biological modification. "I'll do it," Jake said suddenly. "If someone has to be the guinea pig, might as well be me." "Jake, no." Sarah started to protest, but the engineer cut her off. "Captain, we've seen what's coming. If these weapons can give us an edge, we need to understand how to use them. Besides, I've always been curious about alien tech." "Dr. Vasquez looked concerned. "We don't know the long-term effects." This could be incredibly dangerous. So, is letting the Devourers reach Earth unopposed? Jake replied calmly. Cord observed the human exchange with interest. Asterisk, your engineer shows the same courage that first impressed me about your species. This willingness to sacrifice for others is rare in the galaxy. Asterisk, the integration process took place in a chamber deep within Haven's Rest, surrounded by Vectar medical technology that Elena could barely comprehend. Jake lay on a crystalline platform, while delicate tendrils of biomechanical interfaces made connections with his nervous system. How do you feel? Sarah asked as the process completed. Jake sat up slowly, his eyes now flecked with the same subtle luminescence that marked Cord's gaze. Different. I can feel the ship around us, sense the power flows through the entire facility. It's like gaining a new sense I never knew I was missing. He reached out toward one of the disruption lances, and the weapon responded instantly, floating into his grasp as if drawn by an invisible force. The crystalline spear began to glow with contained energy. The targeting data is flowing directly into my mind, Jake reported with wonder. I can see weak points in the station structure, optimal firing angles, energy resonance frequencies. It's incredible. Elena ran every scanner she had over Jake's altered physiology. His neural activity has increased dramatically, but all vital signs remain stable. Whatever they did to him, it seems to be working. Over the following days, they carefully transported the Vectar technology back to their ships and began the integration process. More volunteers came forward, crew members from all three vessels who were willing to risk the unknown for humanity's survival. The first real test came sooner than expected. As they prepared to leave Haven's Rest, Cord's enhanced senses detected something that chilled them all. Devourer scouts, he announced tersely. 3 ships, moving in our direction. They must have detected our energy signatures. Commander Park immediately went into tactical mode. Can we outrun them? Negative. Scout ships are faster than anything in human space. We'll have to fight. Sarah felt her heart racing as she realized this would be humanity's first real battle against the Devourers. Everything they'd learned about these weapons would be put to the test against an enemy that had crushed the Vectar civilization. All ships, prepare for combat, she ordered. Time to see if human stubbornness can match alien technology. The Devourer scouts appeared on their screens like metallic sharks, their biomechanical forms moving with predatory grace through the void. As they closed distance, the alien ships began to glow with the same consuming energy that had destroyed Cord's vessel. Weapons powered and ready, reported the newly enhanced gunners on all 3 ships. Cord placed a hand on Sarah's shoulder, his touch warm with confidence. Asterisk, your species is about to face its first true test against the Devourers. But I have seen your courage, felt your determination. Today, the galaxy will learn that humanity does not yield easily. Asterisk, the battle for humanity's future was about to begin. The first Devourer scout ship struck like lightning made of hunger. Its biomechanical hull rippled as consumption beams lanced out toward the Courage, the energy weapons designed to break down matter at the molecular level and feed it back to the attacking vessel. Evasive maneuvers, Commander Park shouted, but the scout was faster than anything human tactical doctrine had prepared for. The consumption beams struck the frigate's starboard side, and, for a terrifying moment, Sarah thought they were about to witness the destruction of an Allied warship. Then the adaptive shields Jake had helped install flared to life, their crystalline matrices learning and adapting to the alien attack in real time. Shields holding, came the report from the Courage. The energy patterns are being analyzed and countered. Jake, now permanently bonded with his disruption lance control system, felt the targeting data flow through his enhanced consciousness. I have a lock on the lead scout's primary energy node, he reported, his voice carrying new harmonics that reminded Sarah of Cord's speech patterns. Fire at will, Sarah ordered. The disruption lance beam that erupted from the Prosperity was unlike any human weapon. Instead of raw destructive force, it carried precise molecular disintegration patterns, seeking out the specific resonance frequencies that held Devourer technology together. The scout ship writhed as the beam struck its hull, its biomechanical armor beginning to separate into component atoms. But instead of exploding like a human vessel would, the alien ship began to adapt, its hull shifting and flowing to resist the attack. It's learning, Jake reported with amazement. The ship is restructuring itself to counter our weapon. Then, we learn faster, growled Commander Park from the Courage. Her gunner, a former mining engineer named Torres who had volunteered for the integration process, opened fire with his own disruption lance. Two beams struck the scouts simultaneously, each carrying slightly different disintegration patterns. The alien ship's adaptive systems couldn't counter both attacks at once, and, with a soundless scream that somehow registered in every enhanced human's consciousness, the Devourer vessel came apart. "First blood to humanity," Sarah whispered. But their celebration was cut short as the remaining two scouts changed tactics. Instead of attacking directly, they began to emit a pulsing signal that made every piece of Vectar technology aboard the human ships resonate sympathetically. "They're trying to hack our systems," Cord warned, his mental voice strained. Devourer technology includes cognitive warfare protocols. They can turn captured enemy equipment against its users. The enhanced crew members suddenly cried out in pain as the alien signal amplified through their neural connections. Jake gripped his control console, his face contorted with effort. "Fighting the intrusion," he managed to gasp. "But they're strong." Dr. Vasquez rushed to help the affected crew members, but there was nothing her medical equipment could do against this kind of attack. The battle was being fought in the enhanced humans' minds, their altered nervous systems serving as the battlefield. Then, something unexpected happened. Instead of being overwhelmed by the Devourer's signal, Jake began to push back. His consciousness, now partially merged with Vectar technology, started to trace the alien intrusion back to its source. "I can see their ship systems," he reported with growing excitement. "The neural link works both ways. If they want to hack our minds, they have to open themselves up to us." Working together, the enhanced crew members turned their collective consciousness against the Devourer scouts. Human determination and creativity, amplified by Vectar technology, began to overwhelm the aliens' more rigid cognitive patterns. "Their coordination is breaking down," Cord observed with something approaching wonder. "They're losing cohesion as a unit." The second scout ship suddenly veered off course, its pilot apparently overwhelmed by the unexpected counterattack. It crashed into a nearby asteroid and exploded in a brilliant display of bioluminescent fragments. The third scout attempted to retreat, but Commander Park wasn't about to let news of human capabilities reach the main Devourer fleet. "All ships pursue and destroy," she ordered. The chase through the asteroid field showcased the differences between human and Devourer tactical thinking. The alien scout relied on speed and adaptive technology, constantly changing its approach to avoid human weapons. But the human crews were learning to be unpredictable, using their ships in ways that defied tactical logic. Sarah piloted the Prosperity through gaps that should have been too small for a mining vessel, while Jake used his enhanced senses to predict the scouts' movements. Meanwhile, the frigate's Courage and Persistence worked in coordination, driving the alien ship into increasingly desperate maneuvers. The final blow came when Torres managed to target the scout's propulsion system with a perfectly timed disruption lance shot. The alien ship tumbled helplessly as its biomechanical drives failed, leaving it vulnerable to a concentrated barrage from all three human vessels. As the last Devourer scout disintegrated, the human task force found themselves floating among the debris of their first major victory against the aliens. "Damage report," Sarah called. "Minor hull scoring on the Courage, but the adaptive shields handled most of the damage," Commander Park reported. "All enhanced crew members are stable and functional." Jake rubbed his temples, still adjusting to the aftereffects of the neural battle. "That was intense. I could feel their minds during the cognitive attack. They're not like us, more like a hive intelligence. Individual ships are just extensions of a larger consciousness." Cord nodded grimly. "Asterisk, that is both their strength and their weakness. They are perfectly coordinated, but lack the individual initiative that makes your species so dangerous." Asterisk, the implications of the battle weren't lost on anyone. Humanity had not only survived its first encounter with the Devourers, but had actually won decisively. More importantly, they'd learned that Vectar technology and human consciousness were surprisingly compatible. "We need to get this information back to both fleets immediately," Commander Park said. If we can equip more ships with these weapons and train more personnel for integration, we might actually have a chance. But Cord's expression remained troubled. Asterisk, these were only scouts, young devourers with limited experience. The main fleet will include harvesters and dominators, ships that have consumed hundreds of worlds. They will not be caught off guard as these were. Asterisk, the journey back to human space took on new urgency. They now had proof that the Vectar technology worked, but they also knew that time was running out. The scout ship's failure to report back would alert the main Devourer fleet that something had changed in this sector of space. 3 days into their return journey, they received an encrypted transmission from Admiral Santos. The message was brief but electric in its implications. Corporate Coalition has agreed to Joint Defense Initiative. Prepare for full technology transfer upon your return. Humanity stands united. Sarah felt a surge of hope. For the first time in decades, the political divisions that had weakened humanity were being set aside in the face of an external threat. Looks like the aliens accomplished something our diplomats never could, Commander Park observed. They got the corporation and alliance to work together. Jake, his enhanced senses now permanently attuned to the Vectar technology around them, was monitoring the equipment caches they'd retrieved. The weapons are stable, and I think I'm beginning to understand how to modify them for mass production. Human manufacturing techniques might actually be able to adapt this technology. Dr. Vasquez was equally optimistic about the integration process. Now that we know the biological modifications are safe for humans, we could begin training programs for volunteers from both fleets. But it was Cord who voiced what they were all thinking. Asterisk, your species has surprised me again. In one battle, you have shown adaptability that took my people centuries to develop. Perhaps there is hope after all. Asterisk, as they approached the border of human space, long-range sensors began detecting massive fleet movements. Both Corporate Coalition and Free World's Alliance vessels were converging on a rendezvous point near the Tau Ceti system. Dreadnoughts, carriers, and support vessels that had been pointing weapons at each other for years were now preparing to stand together against a common enemy. It's beautiful, Elena whispered, watching the display of human unity on the tactical screen. It's necessary, Sarah corrected, though she felt the same sense of pride. But the real test is still coming. We've won one battle against scouts. Now we need to prepare for a war against their entire fleet. The enhanced crew members were already hard at work, their modified consciousness allowing them to interface directly with Vectar manufacturing systems. Plans were forming for rapid production of adaptive shields and disruption lances, while training protocols were being developed for the integration process. Humanity was about to transform itself into something new, a hybrid of human determination and alien technology that might be capable of standing against the Devourer threat. But first, they had to survive the coming storm. And somewhere in the dark between the stars, vast alien minds were already adapting their strategies, learning from the loss of their scouts, and preparing new horrors to unleash upon this surprisingly resilient species that dared to resist consumption. The battle for humanity's survival was about to escalate beyond anything they had yet imagined. The combined human fleet stretched across 3 star systems, the largest military force in species history. Corporate Coalition dreadnoughts floated alongside Free World's Alliance carriers, their crews working side by side to install Vectar technology with desperate efficiency. In just 2 weeks, humanity had undergone the most rapid military transformation ever recorded. Sarah stood on the bridge of the CNS Defiance, now serving as the fleet's mobile command center. Admiral Santos and General Morrison of the Corporate Coalition flanked her, their old rivalry set aside in the face of annihilation. The integration process had been expanded to include over 3,000 volunteers from both fleets, creating a new class of enhanced human warriors. Fleet status report, Admiral Santos called. All primary vessels equipped with adaptive shields and disruption lance arrays, reported Commander Torres, his neural enhancements allowing him to monitor the entire fleet's Vectar system simultaneously. Integration teams report 97% readiness across all ship classes. Cord moved through the command center like a living ghost, his alien presence now familiar to the human crews who had come to see him as their secret weapon against the Devourers. His telepathic abilities allowed him to coordinate the enhanced humans in ways that conventional communication couldn't match. The enemy approaches, he announced suddenly, his mental voice reaching every enhanced crew member in the fleet simultaneously. 67 Harvester-class vessels, 12 Dominators, and support craft numbering in the thousands. The tactical display erupted with red signatures as long-range sensors confirmed Cord's warning. The Devourer fleet was massive, easily 3 times the size of the combined human force. But more disturbing was their formation. Instead of the chaotic swarm tactics the humans had expected, the alien ships moved with perfect coordination, like organs in a vast organism. "My God," whispered General Morrison. "How do we fight something like that?" Jake, now serving as the fleet's primary Vector technology coordinator, studied the approaching enemy formation with his enhanced perception. They're not individual ships anymore. The entire fleet is operating as a single entity, sharing consciousness across all vessels. "Is that good or bad for us?" Admiral Santos asked. "Both," Cord replied. Astra's perfect coordination makes them incredibly efficient, but it also creates a single point of failure. If we can disrupt their collective consciousness, the entire fleet becomes vulnerable. Sarah felt the weight of command settling on her shoulders. A year ago, she'd been a simple mining captain. Now she was helping to plan humanity's last stand against an alien invasion force that had conquered dozens of civilizations. "What do we need to do?" she asked. Cord's eyes began to glow as he accessed memories of previous battles against Devourer fleets. There will be a command nexus at the center of their formation, a Dominator-class vessel that serves as the fleet's collective brain. If we can destroy it, the other ships will lose coordination. That's assuming we can fight through thousands of enemy vessels to reach it, Admiral Santos pointed out grimly. "Not fight through," Sarah said slowly, her mining experience giving her a different perspective. "Fight around. We use the disruption lances to create a corridor directly to the center, then punch through with a small strike force." Jake's enhanced consciousness was already running tactical simulations. It could work. The disruption lances can destabilize space itself if we overload them properly. Create a temporary rift that only our ships can navigate. "That's insane," General Morrison protested. "You're talking about tearing holes in space-time." "Desperate times," Sarah replied. "Besides, humans have always been good at improvising solutions that shouldn't work, but do." The plan that emerged from their discussions was as audacious as it was dangerous. The main fleet would engage the Devourer forces in conventional battle, using their adaptive shields and disruption lances to inflict maximum damage while drawing attention away from the center of the enemy formation. Meanwhile, a strike force led by the Prosperity would use overloaded Vector technology to create a spatial rift leading directly to the command nexus. Cord insisted on being part of the strike force. "My people's knowledge will be essential for navigating Devourer command ship defenses," he explained. "And I have a personal debt to settle with those who destroyed my world." The hours before battle were filled with frantic preparation. Enhanced crew members throughout the fleet reported strange dreams, shared visions of Devourer consciousness probing at the edges of their minds. But instead of the terror such contacts should have inspired, many humans found themselves feeling angry. The aliens had underestimated human stubbornness. "They're trying to intimidate us," Jake reported after one particularly intense cognitive probe. "But it's backfiring. Every enhanced human in the fleet is ready to show these things what happens when you threaten our families." When the Devourer fleet finally arrived, the sheer scale was breathtaking. Ships the size of mountains moved through space with fluid grace, their biomechanical hulls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that hurt to look at directly. The lead Dominator stretched nearly 50 kilometers from bow to stern, its form resembling some nightmare fusion of technology and predatory biology. "All ships, this is Admiral Santos," came the fleet-wide transmission. "Today we fight not just for human space, but for the right of life itself to exist free from consumption. Show these things that humanity doesn't yield." The battle began with long-range disruption lance strikes that lit up space like an aurora. Human weapons, designed with Vector precision but fired with human determination, began carving through Devourer formations. The aliens' adaptive technology responded quickly, but The humans had learned to vary their attack patterns constantly. Shields holding across the fleet, Torres reported as consumption beams lashed out from the enemy vessels. Adaptive matrices are learning faster than their weapons can compensate. But the sheer size of the Devourer fleet began to tell. For every alien ship destroyed, 2 more moved up to take its place. Human vessels, despite their technological advantages, began taking casualties as the enemy adapted to their tactics. "Strike Force, this is your window," Admiral Santos transmitted. "Punch through while they're focused on the main battle." The Prosperity, now heavily modified with Vectar technology, led 5 other enhanced vessels in a desperate charge toward the enemy center. Jake had rigged their disruption lances to overload in sequence, creating a cascade of spatial distortions that would theoretically open a path through normal space. "Here goes nothing," Sarah muttered as Jake initiated the sequence. Reality twisted around them as overloaded Vectar technology tore holes in space-time itself. The strike force shot through a corridor of distorted physics, emerging in the heart of the Devourer formation with a massive command ship looming ahead of them. The Dominator was even more horrifying up close. Its hull wasn't just biomechanical, it was actively alive, shifting and flowing as it noticed their approach. Defensive systems that defied human understanding began targeting the strike force with weapons that seemed to bend the laws of physics. "Evasive maneuvers," Sarah shouted, but their ships were already moving, the enhanced crew's consciousness linked directly to their vessel systems. The battle around the command ship was unlike anything in human military history. Instead of conventional tactics, it became a test of will between human creativity and Devourer adaptation. Every weapon the aliens deployed was quickly countered by some impossible human improvisation, while every human attack was met with adaptive responses that shouldn't have been possible. Cord's telepathic abilities proved crucial as he guided their assault on the Dominator's weak points. Asterisk there, the neural cluster at the base of the primary spire. That's where their collective consciousness originates. Asterisk Jake locked onto the target with grim determination. 1 disruption lance shot, maximum power. If this doesn't work, we're all going to become alien lunch. The beam that erupted from the Prosperity carried more than just Vectar technology. It was infused with human will, the collective determination of a species that had climbed from caves to the stars and refused to be stopped by anything the universe could throw at them. The disruption lance struck the Dominator's neural cluster, and, for a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, the massive command ship began to convulse, its biomechanical systems fighting against each other as the collective consciousness that controlled them collapsed. Throughout the Devourer fleet, ships suddenly began moving independently, their perfect coordination shattered. The aliens, accustomed to operating as a hive mind, couldn't adapt to individual decision-making fast enough. All ships, target of opportunity. Admiral Santos transmitted. Hit them while they're confused. The combined human fleet fell upon the disorganized Devourers like wolves among sheep. Without their collective intelligence, the alien ships proved vulnerable to the tactics humans had developed over centuries of warfare, ambushes, flanking maneuvers, and the kind of creative thinking that emerged from individual initiative. One by one, the Devourer vessels were destroyed or driven from the system. The few survivors fled into deep space, carrying word that this sector was no longer safe for consumption. As the battle ended and the human fleet regrouped, Sarah found herself standing beside Cord on the observation deck of the Defiance. The alien's expression was peaceful for the first time since she'd known him. "It is finished," Asterisk he communicated. Asterisk the Devourer vanguard has been broken, and word of their defeat will spread throughout their collective. They will not return to this region for many generations. Asterisk, what happens now? Sarah asked. Cord's reply carried a note of something that might have been hope. Asterisk, now your species takes its place among the stars as protectors rather than protected. The Vectar technology you have mastered will serve you well as you explore the galaxy. And perhaps other young civilizations will benefit from the same kindness you showed a stranded alien. Asterisk the integration of Vectar technology had changed humanity in ways that went beyond military applications. Enhanced humans reported expanded consciousness, deeper connection to their technology, and a new understanding of their place in the larger universe. The political divisions that had once seemed so important faded in the face of shared purpose. Jake, now permanently changed by his integration with alien technology, had become the first of a new kind of human, one adapted for life among the stars and contact with other species. But it was Cord who provided the most important insight as they watched the stars from the observation deck. Your species rescued me from certain death when you had no reason to help. That single act of compassion has changed the course of galactic history. Remember this lesson as you venture forth among the stars. Kindness to strangers may be the most powerful force in the universe. Sarah smiled, thinking of her simple mining crew who had become the heroes of humanity's first interstellar war. They had started by rescuing one stranded alien and ended by saving their entire species. It was, she reflected, a very human thing to do. As news of the victory spread across human space, celebrations erupted on dozens of worlds. But in the quiet of the command center, Sarah and her original crew gathered around Cord, the alien who had become family. "So what's next?" Elena asked. Cord's eyes glowed with anticipation. The galaxy is vast, and there are many species who would benefit from human protection. Your journey has only just begun. Looking out at the stars, Sarah felt a surge of excitement about the future. Humanity had passed its first great test among the stars, proving that courage and compassion could overcome any threat. And somewhere in the darkness between worlds, other stranded travelers waited for rescue by those brave enough to stop and help a stranger in need.